tech acquisitions. Joining us to discuss, Adam Kavakovich. He is the Chamber of Progress's CEO and founder. Adam, great to speak with you here. Any chance of Instagram, WhatsApp actually getting divested?
Sure, there's a chance. We don't know. I think the judge in this case has said that the FTC has kind of an uphill battle here. They have to do two things. The FTC has to do two things. First, they have to prove that Meta has a monopoly within the relevant market, which the FTC has said is personal social networking. The challenge for the FTC with that is they say that market includes Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, a company called MeWe, but the FTC says that it does not include LinkedIn, Reddit, X, TikTok, YouTube. And of course, Meta will push back on that, saying that actually the market's much bigger, right? But the second thing that the FTC has to do is they have to prove that Meta's acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp helped Meta maintain a monopoly position through unfair competition. And as you said, like these are 11-year-old, 12-year-old acquisitions. In some ways, I think what the government's asking for is a little bit of a do-over here of the regulatory approval that they gave, 11 years ago, 13 years ago.
What does the government really want in terms of some type of defining change to how the company operates here?
Well, it's pretty clear that they want Instagram and WhatsApp to be spun off from Meta. Like that is the clear objective of the case, because they are saying that essentially the acquisitions of these companies 11 years ago, 12 years ago, gave Meta sort of an unfair position. I think the problem, like the most inconvenient fact for the government here, is that the FTC looked at both of these acquisitions at the time they were implemented and approved them. And I think it's important to say, like, these were really small companies at the time they were approved, right? You had, something like Instagram had like 3 or 4 million users, and WhatsApp had a very small number of users. Now, under Meta, they've grown those to hundreds of millions of users, right? So Meta is going to say that it provided scope and scale for these services to grow, and that wouldn't have happened if both companies had remained independent.
Yeah. So let's play this out. Say this does go through. Say that the government does get what they want, and there's a split up of some highly valuable assets from Meta Platforms. What does that mean for investors who are trying to figure out what the sum of the parts looks like?
Okay, this is a great question, because there's clear stakes for Meta, right? Like it would prefer not to have its company broken up, would prefer not to spin off Instagram and WhatsApp. But I think that there's some interesting macro perspectives here, right? Beyond the stakes for Meta, right? First, there's this sort of do-over that the FTC is seeking, right? Companies really ought to be able to take antitrust regulators' approvals of their deals to the bank, right? Meta is apparently going to call some former FTC employees who reviewed these deals the first time, right? To talk about that. And this question sort of looming over the trial is like, look, is every acquisition that's been approved by the DOJ or the FTC going to be subject to kind of like a regulatory do-over, right? But secondly, from the perspective of there's a kind of interesting perspective for both startups and the companies that buy them, right? Getting bought is not most startups' plan A, right? But it is their plan B. And having the FTC undo this deal could put a chill over startups who want to be acquired. For the acquiring companies, it kind of reads like the case is a bit of a penalty for companies kind of doing too good a job of integrating the acquired companies. So I think there's interesting stakes beyond just Meta.
So talk to me then about just how you see this administration. Do you see Trump 2.0 as friendly to big tech? And is the relationship that all of these tech CEOs have tried to foment with the president going to benefit them in a situation like this?
Well, look, this trial started under the first Trump administration, right? And it was then relaunched or refiled under the Biden administration. There was been reporting that Mark Zuckerberg went to go meet with Trump to try to get the government to drop the case. And what's interesting about that is that before Trump, like no company that was being sued by the FTC would have even bothered talking to the White House about the settlement, because historically the FTC has sort of said, oh, we're an independent agency. But what's interesting is that the FTC chair, Andrew Ferguson, has basically now declared that the FTC is sort of subservient to Trump, right? And so he's kind of opened the door to Meta trying. Now, just because it hasn't been settled yet does not mean it couldn't be settled later, right? It could be settled during the trial. It could be settled after the trial, after the verdict even, right? And if that succeeds, though I think the odds are against it, you're going to see other big tech companies who are in the crosshairs of the government try the same strategy.
Adam, thanks so much for taking the time here with us today. Appreciate it. We're going to be tracking all of the developments. We know you will be too.
Thank you.